Welcome to a new episode of Yahoo Finance's Opening Bid Podcast. I'm Yahoo Finance Executive Editor Brian Sozzi. Like I always say, this is the podcast that will make you a smarter investor, period. And I want to change it up for this episode. I've spent so much time over the past few months talking about AI in the enterprise, or in other words, AI spreading throughout corporate America, mostly through agents, unlocking all sorts of productivity and costing jobs. I want to focus on AI for good and a lot of things that are happening in this space. And for that, I want to welcome in General Catalyst CEO Hemant Taneja. Of course, General Catalyst, preeminent investment firm. I mean, this is a company that has invested in the early stage of Stripe, GitLab, Snap, Anduril Industries, Circle, and I'm sure I'm missing many, many names. Hemant, good to see you. Last time I saw you was in Davos in January, so times have definitely changed a little bit.
Ryan, thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to see you. Look, like I mentioned, I've been focused so much this year on AI and the enterprise, but I know you really are locked in on AI and how it's changing the future of healthcare. So the stage is yours. You know, what are some of the biggest changes you're seeing, and then secondarily, how are you investing in some of those changes?
Yeah. So first of all, why healthcare? I mean, if you think about what happened with COVID, before that, everybody was like, healthcare is broken. We need to be fixing it. COVID broke healthcare. I mean, you know, the rural systems ended up going out of business in a lot of places. We don't have like a healthcare system in rural America. And a lot of the health systems are looking for bailouts because of the misalignment of the business model. Workforce is tired, you name it. So like all kinds of issues. And by the way, the urgency around healthcare, beyond just being a societal good, is like for the United States, if we're going to come out of our budget challenges, we have to make healthcare more affordable. So from our perspective, we always think about, you know, if you close your eyes and you said from 20 years, you had a brand new healthcare system, what should it look like? You would say it's proactive. Nobody wants to go to the hospital. People want to stay healthy. You want it to be affordable. You want it to be accessible. And so the question for us over the last, really over a decade now has been, how do we get there? And our belief is that the transformation of the healthcare industry is not going to get done by a single company. You need to build a series of companies that chip away at the broader problem. And, you know, we got a little lucky break. ChatGPT happened along the way, which all of a sudden turbocharged our ability to create those building blocks needed to transform healthcare. So that's a lot of what we've been focused on over the last several years.
And the changes, I'm sure, go beyond AI and making it, I guess, quicker to check in and out of a doctor's office. I mean, take us through some of the foundational things that I think would blow some viewers' minds in the healthcare space on how AI is impacting things.
First of all, when ChatGPT happened, we're like, wow, this thing is hitting the zeitgeist. Every CEO in every company, in every industry, in every country is figuring out what to do with AI. And we're like, well, where's the early adoption going to be? And the initial instinct was, it's not going to be healthcare. It's people's lives. But for all the reasons I described and how challenged the system is, the workforce embraces, the health systems embrace it. So I would actually argue healthcare is one of the places where it's the fastest adoption of AI happening today. Okay, and it's happening in a variety of spots. We have many companies that are providing pieces of AI solutions in healthcare, and here's how they go. One is obviously around, can you automate, you know, patients being able to engage and get access to care and whatnot. But the important things are, for the clinical teams, can we give them tooling that can address some of the physician and the clinical team burnout issues? Because the technology has been so poorly designed in this industry broadly, can AI make a difference there? That has spread like wildfire in these systems. The other is, you know, the workforce in healthcare, in my opinion, has been imbalanced towards more operational stuff and less about taking care of people. We don't have enough people taking care of our elderly or our kids with mental health issues. And we have a lot of people handling billing in the background. So what AI has allowed to do is, could you actually use artificial intelligence to help automate a lot of the revenue cycle management, how health systems get paid from insurance companies to operate? And on the other side, can then you take that workforce and really go focus on taking care of patients? That's been a huge area. The other thing is, in terms of using AI to diagnose and take care of and understand which patients need what care as early as possible, the algorithmic use cases there, that's also a place where there's a fast adoption. So every part of the health systems, we're seeing adoption at scale on AI for these different functions.
Do you think at some point that this technology will help lower the cost of care? Or that's just something that's never going to happen?
Look, it's a great question. It's going to happen. We don't have a choice. It's breaking. If you look at many of the states, 50% of the budgets are Medicare budgets. So at some point, you're really, not investing enough in education and other sort of core services in society as a nation if we don't get this right. So it has to be solved. So I'm a big believer that we will solve it. But I think the biggest way to solve it is this whole movement around healthcare 3.0. No, let's keep people healthier. If we can just reduce the need for care by being preemptive in our way of delivering care, taking care of consumers, that is an immediate. Every person that did not go to the hospital, that's immediate savings in terms of tax on the system. So I think it needs to be really focusing on, can technology create operating leverage? Can it be smart about keeping populations just healthier in general? And then can we be smart about giving them the care that they need versus it's a bit of a blunt instrument today. You're going to hospital, they'll test you in every single dimension because who pays and who benefits are different people. So there's no rational behavior there. Can you actually bring in that kind of a value orientation to how care is delivered?
I recently had on the podcast, Hemant, Grok CEO Jonathan Ross. Of course, they're an upstart competitor to NVIDIA. And he was making the point that AI can't yet predict or it can't come up with certain predictive solutions. Is that the next big unlock in healthcare with some of the AI companies that you're seeing or even seeding, that they're able to predict the drug you need before you feel as though you might need it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a drug, or it might just be a nudge on a behavior, right? I think we're actually. It's interesting you asked that. We're actively working on funding some research around this. What are the decisions that can proactively keep people healthy? That is the path to transitioning to what would be a value-based care system. And you do need AI there to be able to understand a person at a deep level, understand the impact of the different actions on people's health, and be able to say, okay, for this particular person, they should go do X, Y, Z to stay healthier. We did a version of this, by the way, when we built Livongo, which was the first applied AI company in healthcare. We had started in 2013 and was focused on consumers with chronic conditions, starting with diabetes. And a lot of what we were doing was we were uploading real-time data on their A1C, on their blood sugars, and seeing if they were trending in a negative spot and encouraging them to go get a glass of orange juice or go take a walk and sort of get them back into zone of healthiness versus leading to an episode that could be hyper or hypoglycemic for them. And that's a huge ROI. It's patient, consumers love that because no one wants to think about their chronic conditions. They just want to be healthy. And AI can play a big role in driving that behavior.
I'm listening to you, Hemant. I'm like, my new Whoop strap seems really outdated. I just got this damn thing like 2 weeks ago. I mean, I thought it tracks a lot of great data, and it does, but wow, I mean, it's amazing to see what is coming down the pike. I mean, to that end, just given the opportunity in healthcare, is your portfolio of General Catalyst more skewed to healthcare opportunities? And there, one or two companies that you want to highlight that are really working on some special things?
Yeah, so healthcare is about 20% of what we do. It sort of consistently has been. And in healthcare, some of the big platforms that we're building, hospital systems need their own operating system and a set of AI capabilities to do some of the things I mentioned earlier. We have a company called Commure we're building to enable that. The diagnostics using AI for taking care of assessing patients more effectively. We have a company called AI Doc doing that. Ro Health is our direct-to-consumer platform focused on keeping people healthy. They're very focused on obesity and GLP-1s as a part of their offering. We have a company called Transcarent, which is bringing a lot of this mindset to keeping employees happy and healthy in the sort of large employer bases. So we're sort of building capabilities across the board. We have a company called Hippocratic, which is a AI model that we built in collaboration with the health systems, and it goes to market as a agentic system that calls people and essentially simulates being an agentic nurse and takes care of them. So we've tried, and this was my point earlier. You need all these building blocks and more. We have 150 companies in our portfolio to go do this transformation of healthcare that we laid out.
You're sucking me back into the AI agent debate. I was trying to get rid of it, But
let's not go there. Let's not go there.
it's
But
fine.
it is going to be used here.
Well, let me just lean into it just a little bit. I can't help myself. Are you a big believer in humanoids playing a role in the care of baby boomers? You know, I've been reading. I've gotten a lot of slide decks recently, very long slide decks, a lot of really extensive research by I think it was Morgan Stanley, but it's also Citibank, laying out the companies that are doing humanoids, and a lot of them they could have a role in perhaps maybe taking care of my parents someday.
Yeah. By the way, the first version of that idea I saw was, I kid you not, about 10 years ago. So, these ideas, and now the robotics wasn't really ready for it, AI wasn't ready for it, but I do think using technology to bend the cost curve of taking care of our elderly is a huge lever. It's about 50% of our costs is last 6 months of end of life of care, because America is obsessed with fighting death. So we do all these things, and I think using technology to actually make that cost effective is going to be a high ROI thing. So I do think robotics will play a role. I don't think that'll be one of the first applications where humanoids take hold, given the seriousness of it. But we don't have a workforce that takes care of the elderly. Having some robotic augmentation of that workforce will be useful.
All right, hang with us, hey man. We're going to go off for a quick break. We'll be right back on Opening Bid. All right, welcome back to Opening Bid here at the NASDAQ in Times Square. Having a great chat on all things AI and the future impact on healthcare and various other industries with General Catalyst CEO Hemant Taneja. Of course, General Catalyst, early investor in Stripe, GitLab, Snap, Anduril Industries, Circle, and like I mentioned at the top of the show, I know I'm missing a lot of key companies there, but I think you get the point. Now, I think this was you, Hemant. I came across a LinkedIn post recently, and maybe it was you, noting that we are headed for a power crisis by 2028. We're talking a lot about AI and the good it's doing, but can the system handle all of this technology? And what type of power crisis are we looking at?
First of all, the system cannot, and I actually think it's a good thing. So I spent some time with some of the largest utility CEOs, and for this industry was kind of growing with inflation, maybe 1% a year in terms of how much power was being consumed, and hasn't really been growing. But because of AI and some of the emerging needs now, the electricity industry is poised to grow significantly, maybe double digit in the 2030s. Just try to imagine how big that sector is and how much more generation that's going to be needed. And it's all driven towards generating productivity with AI. We do not have the infrastructure, the permitting setups, the supply chains to actually be able to go deploy that at scale. We need new technologies as well. And so I actually think the power sector is going to be a super interesting, highly innovative one because of all the new demand. And it's an opportunity to do the energy transition to a more sustainable world as well. Because I do think a lot of new technologies that are coming out are fundamentally better not only from a cost perspective, but also energy security, as well as being good for the environment.
When you say power crisis, to the noob, I'll say I'm the noob. What does that mean? We talking rolling blackouts here? What does a crisis even look like?
Well, I think if you think about the technology companies and the hyperscalers needing electricity, they are the most cash-rich customer. And they can afford to actually suck up all the new demand that's being built. So it could create sort of a supply-demand imbalance in terms of how much can we take care of the commercial needs of the development of the AI industry, and sort of balancing that with making sure we have reliable infrastructure for broader society as well. It just puts strain on the system. I just think we need to accelerate development of that infrastructure. Otherwise, we're going to have to make those trade-offs. You're either going to say slow down progress in AI, or slow down dealing with brownouts. Take your pick. And so we shouldn't be in that situation. I think we can innovate our way and scale our way through this. It's something we are actively thinking through at General Catalyst as well. How do we sort of play our part in that? But I think it's exciting. I think it's a growth market for the entrepreneurs to focus on.
What is your role in this, Hemant? Do you have to work closer with government officials, and what role should government play in this?
Look, we describe ourselves as an investment and transformation company. Our focus is on partner with the world's most ambitious entrepreneurs, build enduring companies, and then transform industries. The transformation of industries again, as I said earlier, when I was talking about healthcare, it doesn't happen by a single company and doesn't happen by even a set of companies. It really happens by bringing different stakeholders together. That's innovation, that's policy, that's capital, that's existing businesses. So a lot of the role we're playing is sort of be that convener that can connect these stakeholders, create collaboration, bring innovation in and drive those industries. And for that, we have been dealing with governments all over the world, starting with DC, but everywhere we do business, we're engaging with them to think about how these systems are going to transform over the next 20 to 30 years.
Well, there's certain companies trying to make what they do in AI, I guess, more energy efficient.
Everybody has to, because in some ways the cost of AI is going to bootstrap to the cost of energy. Because compute becomes more and more efficient. If energy prices are rising, that'll actually make the cost of compute more expensive. And so its impetus is on us to figure out new technologies. That's why there's so much focus on technologies like fusion, why there's a potential renaissance in the nuclear technology from a fission standpoint. All these technologies are being tried because we need cheaper, efficient solutions to scale the adoption of AI in this world.
Is nuclear a way to fix the problem? I think, didn't Google sign a deal for nuclear power?
Yeah, look, nuclear is going to have a huge role. We have a lot of inertia around the adoption of nuclear. We don't have a workforce because we haven't been building these plants for a while. There's a huge amount of permitting lag. There are some perceived and real risks on how to do this well. So these are real issues that we have to get our arms around. But at the end of the day, nuclear is and can be cheap, abundant energy, especially if we can also get fusion to work. That's another place we are doing some work as well. And that's what I meant when I said that the power sector is going to have a lot of innovations, which is an exciting part that will end up in a better spot over the next 10 to 20 years with AI sort of pulling it from a demand perspective and sort of asking for cheaper, faster, better solutions.
I was reflecting a little bit back to the panel I moderated with you at the World Economic Forum in January. It feels like yesterday, but at the same time, it feels like years away.
World changed a little bit.
Yeah, there was so much optimism. I think the panel was focused on the role of founders in businesses. What have you told the founders of the companies that are in the General Catalyst portfolio inside of a year that started off with so much optimism, then it went down a little bit, went down further for Liberation Day. Now the stock market's back near the highs, but there's a lot of uncertainty. What are you telling this group?
Really two things. A lot of this change is happening because of geopolitics and AI. Technology is pulling us in interesting ways, and the geopolitics is pulling us in interesting ways. And that's really the underpinnings of how we think about our own investment strategy. So the two things we tell them are, one is peak ambiguity. So just understand that the definition of excellence is going to be constantly trying and moving forward versus thinking you're going to get the decisions right, because you just don't know which way the world's going to go. Second is, I think you have to be very clear about your values and where you want to go, because when things are very, very ambiguous, the only thing you have to lean on is the long-term values that you're building your business with. So have more conviction and courage to follow those and make the hard choices where it's not really clear which direction to go. And that allows you to constantly be moving with urgency in the short term, but be going where you believe in the long term. Has
demand slowed? Have you seen any cautionary signals in your various businesses?
Not really. I mean, I think some of the stuff around tariffs, for example, I mean, in some ways came and went, and companies were preparing for it, and it'll lead to some supply chain shifting, which again is an opportunity from our standpoint. But I think overall, it's the place where we focus is fundamentally about transfer of value, right? We look at how's technology shifting value to different businesses. That is happening so fast, it's unbelievable. There's a category of businesses where, I mean, I tell our team regularly that we have to rethink definition of what it means to grow fast. Because some companies are growing so much faster than we ever were used to, because AI is such an accelerant that it's an incredibly exciting time in terms of what's the art of the possible with what we do.
I recently had a good chat with the co-CEO of Primera. Of course, they invest a lot of early stage companies, and he made the good point, Brian Reuter, made the good point that companies still want to IPO. They view that as the North Star, but then they also don't want to IPO because of all the burdensome regulations and having to deal with shareholders. Has that been your sense as well, talking with the founders of companies you interact with, that they want to go public, but they're hesitant to do so?
So I look at our companies, of the companies that become viable businesses, I bucket them into three categories. The very best, this is like the private version of the sort of market leaders, the Stripes and the SpaceXs and the Andurils. They have access to everything they need. They can create shareholder liquidity. They can raise infinite amounts of capital. They can get debt. They can do M&A in the private markets. So for them, the threshold is like, why go public if we don't have to and take on that tax that you're referring to? Then there's sort of a mid-tier companies where they need to establish credibility in the market, and they could use the capital base, they could use the credibility of being a public company, and those will think about going public sort of more aggressively. I actually think the thing that we spend a lot of time focusing on is like, then there's this huge set of companies that even get to 100, 200 million in revenue. They're growing 15, 20% a year. Founders view it as their life's work. They're excited to do it. They'll keep compounding, but they're too small to be public companies. So there is this other area where public companies are not even a solution for them. So we need innovation in our industry to get those companies to endure in the private markets, just like they do in other industries. And there's lots of private companies that become enduring companies in non-tech. Tech, as it matures, is also now going to need that kind of a set of capital solutions to drive that.
I want to lock in on one company in particular for our hot take segment here for the podcast, Anduril Industries. I've been following that company's journey. I'm genuinely fascinated by what Palmer Luckey and his team is working on. You know, as an investor in Anduril, what does the future of modern warfare look like?
Look, we've been investors in Anduril since its seed stage in 2017, and it's been amazing to watch their sense of purpose, their true north, and how they've navigated. Look, you've seen a blueprint for what warfare is going to look like in Ukraine. You saw a very small snippet of that in the Israel conflict. You saw a little bit of that in the India-Pakistan conflict. I think warfare is fundamentally changing, and it is going to, more drones, more technology, more decentralized systems, and so the whole supply chain has to shift. And I think this sector is going to have to innovate. I don't think it's going to be about these really expensive monolithic fighter programs only. I think a lot of the capital is going to shift towards these smaller, more effective solutions that use technology and AI, and are frankly a lot more cost effective from a taxpayer perspective as well. So that is changing. It's a very exciting sector. We've invested in many companies all over the world because every region wants to develop their own primes and these local capabilities on these new technologies. So it has gone from, that was a unique investment in 2017 by most people's standards, although we've been investing in defense since 2004, to now defense being a really vibrant sector all over the world. I think they're seeing great companies getting built to tackle the overall needs for this modern warfare.
What do you think the next 5 years for a company like Anduril look like?
I think they're going to keep, first of all, scaling. They're going to keep building more and more products. They have ambitions to continue to serve, countries that they believe in from a values perspective and want to do business with. And there hasn't been a large defense prime for the last 30, 40 years since Anduril came about in the US. I mean, the runway here is, this should be as big or maybe bigger than the other primes because it's technology first, it's a better business, it's a better business model, it's highly innovative and moves fast, and then theoretically should gain share over others, continue to do that over the last 5 years.
Great to spend some time with you again here. General Catalyst CEO Hemant Taneja. Don't be a stranger. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. That was fun. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. And that's it for the latest episode of Opening Bid. Continue to hit us with all those likes and thumbs up on all the podcast platforms and on YouTube. If you heard something or saw something that really piqued your interest from Hemant at General Catalyst, please hit me with some comments in the YouTube sections or on X at Brian Sozzi. I will get to all your questions, and I'll talk to you soon.